you are all welcome to another episode of Mind Over Matter. This would be the 10th episode of the series. And I have been able to get to the 10th episode pretty fast in the last couple of months. I did not expect that we'll get here that far. I mean, it's probably been probably just 3 months or so when I began about 3 months back with the first episode with Karin Palm, and it was, I would say, it was on an experimental basis to 50%, and 50% was my gut feeling that it's gonna go somewhere. So that being said, we have Diana with us today. She is basically a public speaking coach, and what that means is she helps individuals and teams conquer their stage fears and work on their weak points, whichever they may be. Each person has his or her own. And I relate to that because I did not have any experience or training in public speaking. So when I was given this area of trainings, and I got into it, I learned with my own experiences and as I went on. So you learn, but it took me more time than it should have if I had somebody like Diana who could coach me. To be very honest, if I had her mentoring me, my journey could have been easier. But well, we have her now. Thank you, Diana, for taking out time. I'm really thankful that you were so sporty about it. I messaged you and you were up for it. That's because I'm pretty sure that's because of your attitude of being at as many places as possible to help out as many people as possible, right? And to share your information, your knowledge, your experience with each and every one of them. So, yeah, without further ado, welcome, Diana. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Fahad. What an awesome introduction. I've been
You deserve
introduced
all of
many
that.
times, but that was like on point. And thanks for that great build up. And I do want to add something is, like, yes, having a public speaking coach is great, but the fact, Fahad, your adventure of going through the whole journey of learning by yourself, I think it's even better than having a specific public speaking coach, but having maybe a combination of where you get to really just throw yourself, right? Throw yourself, learn, and maybe having a coach, I think can set you up for success. So thank you for having me. I'm so proud of what you've done over the past few months. I've gone over your podcast and I really like the name Mind Over Matter. I think that's like just on point. So I would keep pushing you. We're all here out to support each other. So first, great job. Second, thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. I appreciate all the positive words, and I really appreciate you checking back on the page, and maybe perhaps if you have any feedback, I'm always ears. And no matter who it is, I mean, you are an expert, but no matter who it is, I'm always ears, whatever it is, because I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for everybody else who watches. So it should be valuable for the viewers. I mean, I'm gonna learn a lot of stuff on the way while I do this, but at the same time, it's mostly for people who are watching. So let's begin with a little bit about you. Why don't you tell us about how you began? Why did you choose this particular field? And were you always as open as you are today? As in, I don't know if you are an extrovert or not, that the words extrovert and introverts are used a lot when it comes to public speaking. And I personally, I have yet to do a lot of some research on it and find out whether an introvert can actually be a public speaker. But I believe that you can do whatever the heck you want in life, no matter. But you being my guest here today, I would like you to share your knowledge with me.
Oh, yeah. First of all, that's a very interesting take. And I love this question where you had like, were you always one? And I would say no. Surprisingly, I'm an introvert. But I think I do have this whole introverted kind of extroverted thing. So maybe when I was younger, I was the most shyest girl ever, sticking to my mom, like don't even want to talk to everyone. And then I had this peak of when I was actually like in the teens where I wanted to talk to every single person. And now growing up, being in my 30s, I actually want to step away, recharge, and that's when from my heart, I can give. So I would say I'm in between. But I would tell you my journey of how I actually ended up practicing public speaking. So I always had a bit of an intrigue over it. So anytime there was any speech, I was always the first person being there watching. You know, we all have our, I'm sure you can relate, Fahad. You all have these tics where you're like, oh my God, this is the most interesting thing ever. And that's when you start to be like, okay, this is interesting. But the first time I actually got properly exposed to public speaking was in university. So I was brought up and born in Dubai, but I decided to move back to my home country, which is Lebanon. And that's when in university, I saw something called Toastmasters International. Are you aware of it, Fahad?
No, I'm not.
Oh, it's an amazing club. I actually encourage everybody to partake in it. It's a public speaking club. It's all around the world. And it's an official club where people go in, interact, be a community, but the one goal is for them to improve their public speaking skills. And you have no idea, like 10 years straight, I stayed in this club because first I realized what my passion was, but then it's just so addictive, you know, being part of a community. But then every time you go on stage, you get feedback and you actually learn how to, you know, speak in public and overcome the fear. So that was my first touch of point. And I'm like, okay, I really want to take this forward. But I was a chicken and I did what any normal person would do after university is I pursued what my parents told me, okay, marketing, go for marketing. So I graduated and I landed a great job, but this is where my public speaking helped me, right? Interview process, nailed it because I can speak really well. And then along the job, I moved into business development. And public speaking helped me insanely because it taught me techniques of how to present. And eventually, I started to get promoted. They started to send me all around the world to represent the organization. And I'm like, okay, listen, I have to take this seriously. Like, I love business development, but what if I actually move into a field, you know, still not taking a huge risk, to a field that I can really practice my public speaking skills? So what would come to your mind, Fahad, when you think of a field that maybe has public speaking in it?
Can you elaborate your question?
So like there's a department that now I've moved into that
Yeah.
would take in public speaking. So maybe I'll give you a quick clue. Training, maybe learning and development. So that's the answer right there. So I threw
Hmm.
away 10 years of my life, which was business development. And that was my first big risk. I was like, I need to take public speaking seriously. And that's when I moved and got back to Dubai and I moved into the learning and development field. And that's when I was thriving. I was training people and, you know, like using my public speaking skills all the time. But that wasn't enough. And that's when I went to my manager. I'm like, listen, I have a crazy idea. I'm like, how about we create a Toastmasters, a public speaking club here at my organization? And she was like, you know what, Diana, just go for it. And she made my dream come true. So last year we were able to train 130 people on public speaking across 8 markets. And we called it
Wow.
T Speaks. So that was the first dream. But like we said, you know, me and you have this kind of itch of doing other things. I was like, I need to take this full out. So after that step, I decided that I want to actually take this full time. And this is how I became to be a public speaking coach today. So
That's an
that's my
amazing
story.
story, I would say. It's pretty interesting. And it turns out that you kind of discovered it as you did a lot of other stuff.
For
And
sure.
I think I have kind of the same story, but let's not get into that. And let's move to the stuff that we have lined up today. That so
Sure.
basically the idea is to bring up the kind of information that can actually help out people rather than just telling our stories. It's more important that we give away some stuff too. So it's to start off, what do you think are the few core qualities a public speaker should have Anybody, for example, if I have to be on stage, does not matter if I have experience or not. If I am going on a stage, let's just assume I don't have any experience. What are the, let's say, three qualities that I should possess or I should work on in order to,
Mhm.
get there and get the kind of results that I'm looking for?
So three qualities, I would say number one is vocal variety. I think that if you can have vocal variety throughout your speech, you can nail any speech. And what I mean by that is not sounding like, today we have to present this, which is kind of, I call it the boring teacher method. So the more you know how to play with your vocal variety, I think you can captivate the audience. The second is, I think, something that people really underestimate, which is your body language. And yes, it may not be as important as vocal variety, but it goes hand in hand. It's how you portray yourself on stage. And that is the first impression people get about you. So once you feel confidence and that openness, they're more likely to take in your message. And lastly, I would say is the content language, but why are you there? And sorry,
I lost your voice for a moment. You said the last thing is
one
content.
second.
I can hear you
Let me
now.
just, yeah. Okay. Also, I need to bring in my charger. I just noticed.
Right.
Okay. There we go. I think I'm bright enough. So the last thing I would say is actually content. What are you gonna say? How are you gonna wow your audience? And I'm not saying a typical content. I'm talking about that wow factor, that novelty that you're bringing in. Like, what are you saying to waste 15 minutes, right? Or 20 minutes of these people's time is very important. And how you say
Yeah,
it is even more important.
absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. And what I've experienced over the last few years is even if you do not know what to say, how to say, when to say what, if you have your content in place and you have rehearsed it enough
Oh yeah.
times,
Oh yeah.
then half of your job is done. You just get on the stage and you go on with your presentation or the information that you have to deliver. So it, eases up your process, or it takes away all the hesitation you have and all the fear you have of the stage. So because you grab the attention, people are listening to you because you have something substantial to tell them. So eventually what happens is when you see so when you get on a stage, sometimes you are scared that there's a lot of people and they might
Yeah.
not take me as well as I'm supposed to be taken, or they might not listen to me. They may be talking to each other. At times it happens they're using the phone because it's no you are not perceived as good as you're supposed to be every time. There are different sort of crowds. So it's important that you gauge their attention first, and then eventually, then once you have gauged the attention, you can say whatever the heck you want and they will listen. Is what the idea is. As long as they see that you
100%.
have credibility and you know what you're saying, then you can say whatever you want and they will still connect with it. They will still listen to you. So that's a very interesting, one of the interesting thing to
100%.
go about.
I love
And
what
let
you
me
said, Fahad. I love what you said, Fahad. So maybe I'll step in here. When you
please.
asked, like, what is maybe the first stage of when someone wants to take up public speaking? I know we can't be body language masters or vocal variety masters, but the fact that you said, like, we can go back home and really practice our content is something I think we can take as a weapon and really like go on stage and impress people. But I want to take it to the next level of it's not just important what your content is how you draw in your audience as well. What are these hooks that you're going to attract them and bring them into what you're
Yeah.
saying? What makes you special? What makes you memorable? So you got to put a lot of that work and thought into it.
Yeah. And one little mistake that people usually make is they try to be somebody else when they're starting off. At
Oh,
least they are trying to be certain somebody they watched doing some presentation or on TV. So what they do is they are mimicking their accent, they're mimicking, taking some of the phrases that these people use. And what you end up doing is you end up losing your own personality. So What makes you unique is how you are, rather than you think I'm not good enough. Rather, you should be who you are.
100%.
And as normal as you would
100%.
come
Yeah.
off, the people would connect with you even more, is
Oh,
what I
yeah.
have experienced.
Authenticity. Listen, it's people are very smart. People can directly tell if you're faking it on stage. 100%. And once they feel you're faking it and you're not your true self, that's the first thing that they're going to get disconnected. Like exactly,
Yeah.
Fahad, what you're saying, your credibility. So if you come on stage and you're faking it and you're sounding like someone who's supposed to be a great public speaker, you just lost them. So you lost the credibility, you sound fake, and why would they need to listen to you? I really, really encourage people to be themselves. I was a victim, yeah. Like when I first started out my public speaking journey, like don't get me wrong, I went in trying to be the perfect Diana, and I was like, I, I need to speak like. He came to me, he's like, Diana, why do you sound like a robot? Who's my brother? And family are very
Hmm.
strict. Yeah, they tell you the truth. So he's like, Diana, no, 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 no. This is not you, man. Don't try to be that perfect thing, or like you're sounding fake. And when he told me that, I'm like, oh my God, yes, this is not me. So then I just went back, and my biggest tip is always when you go on stage, if you don't want to sound fake, pretend it's just a conversation you have with your friend, like an extremely casual conversation. And I promise you, you'll just be who you are.
Yeah, Diana, the exact same thing happened when I was experimenting with different stuff a couple of years back, about 4 years back. I started doing some traveling vlogs. So I made a few and I shared with one of my friends, and he straight up he called me up and he said, "Dude, why are you? This is not you. You don't speak like this. Why are you speaking?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't. I didn't know how to go about it." He said, Just you just have to be yourself, because other people may think that you're being natural, but I know that it's not you. So you should rather stick to how you speak or how you communicate with people. So I think it's very important, that you are yourself. It's very important,
100%. People
absolutely.
can feel it, man. People are very smart. They know it when you're real.
Yes, yes. And so the next one would be Diana's. What would you say are your favorite techniques when it comes to public speaking?
My favorite techniques. Listen, there's a lot, but since we're kind of talking about content right now, yeah, I would say you have to have a secret sauce, and it's all about that wow factor. Like remember what I was saying, you're going on stage, you're taking up 15, 20 minutes of their time. So what can you do about it to create that wow factor? Like in these days with the amount of people talking and all the speeches, you need to go above and beyond than a normal speech and treat it like homework. So I have three things that I think if you kind of, take that in, it can really help you create an impactful speech. The first is start strong. Grab your audience attention. The second is engage and entertain your audience throughout, which is the middle. And lastly, please, please, please end with an impact. Like you need to end with a certain impact or a message for people to remember your message and who you are specifically. So if you nail these three things, I think you'll have a very successful speech.
That's very valuable. That's very, very valuable piece of advice. How you concluded is probably more important than how you began.
It's how you start and how you end. This is what people remember, by the way. Most of people space out in the middle. It's a known thing, right? They're on their phones, they're this. So it's like if you grab their attention from the start and you know how to do it, you're more likely to maintain their attention. And it's that ending message, specifically remember who you are.
But when you say you keep their attention, what about in between? Start and finish.
It,
How do you keep their
yes.
attention intact in between?
So I actually say the middle is like a burger, like a burger, we have a beautiful light bun where we can attract people with certain attention hooks. Then the burger, it's the juiciest part, but let's think about it. It's the heaviest part. There's the meat, there's the lettuce, there's tomatoes, there's ketchup. All right. And then the end is the beautiful, crisp conclusion, which we say. So this bulk is where most people space out. So the way you need to keep their attention is first you need to think, okay, how can I deconstruct my message to make it very entertaining and engaging? And the biggest problem, Fahad, and I'm sure you've experienced this, right, is when people decide to share everything at once with everyone, right? So they overload you with information and they start to space out. But people have
Yeah,
this internal urge, I need to tell them everything. They need to know about everything. No, they don't. We need to remember how people's attention span is. So the first tip I'll be about grabbing, maybe not grabbing, but maintaining their attention in the middle, is stick to the power of three. So the power of three is actually proven in so many different ways. So if you just talk about 2 points, it's too little. If you talk about more than 3, 4 points, 5 points, people are more likely not to remember. So the power of three is actually the most memorable and retainable amount. So first, please simplify your message in the middle. Stick to the power of three. Now, a second thing is, okay, you got to maintain their attention. So what's one amazing way where you can do that? Statistics. So in the message, generally in the middle, what you try to do is you're trying to prove your point. So let's say I start with smoking is good for you. All right. In the middle, you usually are trying to prove your point. But in the middle, what happens is if I'm Diana and you're Fahad and we're trying to be like, okay, you need to smoke because it was all such a theory, or you need to smoke so stress can be low. Who's Diana and who's Fahad? But when you bring statistics, what happens with people's minds is that it starts to become credible. Okay, it's not just Diana, it's not just Fahad. Also, another thing, it's entertaining because if it's a new fact, it's novelty. So people's brains start to expand and they're like, oh my God, this is so interesting. And it's more likely that it's credible. So statistics is extremely important. And I really encourage it specifically in that bulk. And lastly, the most powerful tool for interaction is asking questions. The audience needs to feel like they're part of your conversation. So imagine, Fahad, that throughout your entire speech, it's 20 minutes, you're just talking. How are the people going to feel? They don't feel included. As entertaining, as amazing you are, we know we need to interact with our audience. So the quickest way, and that's why I say do it in the middle, because the middle is what? The burger, the bulkiest. So you can ask them like, raise your hand. Who's actually a smoker here? What happens to people's brain is like, I'm a smoker, so they pay attention to you, yeah? Or who here has experienced actually a great story about, releasing your stress with smoking? So when you start engaging them, when you start asking them questions, you just gotten their attention without even doing anything
absolutely.
extra.
This is one
Yes,
of the
so
one of the core things. I'm sorry. So these are one of the core things. And when we began this episode today, I mentioned to you that my style of doing these sessions is more of a communication rather than an interview.
yeah,
So when I do the trainings as well, I give a disclaimer in the beginning, in the first 2, 3 minutes, that this is not a speech, this is not a lecture, this is not a presentation, this is a conversation. So you guys are here. However much, no matter how many of you are here today, maybe it would be 20 people or 200 people, 2,000 people. I want to connect with each and every one of you. So do not just sit there and listen to me talk. If you have any questions, anytime you stop me, you raise your hand, you ask the question. And even if you don't, and I think that one of you have a question, when I look at you, when you're the trainer, you look at people and you know that somebody might want to ask you something. So if you find them a little bit confused or perplexed, you ask them. So I ask them and they answer, and that's how you connect. And it's sort of a two-way thing, you give them a little bit of respect by including them in. It's very important that these people are not here for you. right? In the first place. So you are not doing any favor to these people. They are here for whatever this event is about. They're here to get knowledge, and you should respect that. And so you should include for sure. This is amazing. And I'll
100%.
include this one little thing that you said something very interesting.
Yeah.
You said about you gave this example about a burger and the most juiciest and most tastiest part of the burger. So it's almost like when you eat a meal, most of the time, I mean, what I want to do is I know what is the what is the tastiest thing for me. Most of the time, it's the fries. So I eat the whole thing. I make sure I leave some fries for the end so I can eat the fries and finish my meal. So the aftertaste is according to how I want it to be. So it's almost like that. You leave some important, substantial information for the end, and you kind of unbox it at the end, and just to, let's say, put cherry on the top of
Yeah,
whatever
I love
dessert
your
you are putting
example of
out there.
fries. I love it. That's a nice thing. I'll add to my metaphor, but yeah, it's
Yeah, because
going
and I
about.
learned this. Yeah, you learn this as you go. As I said, and what happens now is when I'm doing this podcast, I've learned a lot of things that I apply in my techniques, in my presentations and these things. I found out that uh, experts are actually teaching these methods to people, and they're saying, okay, and I'm a bit surprised because I didn't know. I just made up a lot of things by my observation. I thought that this is how it's working better. So this is how you learn from each other. It's a very interesting thing. And before we continue, just this one last thing, you said something about do not throw a lot of information at the participants. Keep it
Hmm.
brief. So another thing that I want to include is most of the times, while we sometimes we under prepare, a lot of times we over what's the word? Um,
Over prepare,
we kind
overdo
of
it, overwhelm.
no, we actually over what's the word? So we look at the audience and we think overestimate. We overestimate the audience a lot of times.
Ah, right.
We think that they're
Hmm.
judging us, and if I say something a little bit wrong or something less in terms of the quantity of content, then they wouldn't be satisfied with it. What usually happens is they are not able to grasp everything that you are throwing at them because you know all this information you are
Exactly.
throwing at them in 30
Hmm.
minutes, but they cannot put it all in. So the lesser the content, the more impactful the content, the better. So on that, let's just move forward to uh,
100%.
what we have here. So any particular ideas you have in terms of when you give your presentations or you talk to people, how do you want to conclude your trainings? What do you usually do?
Okay.
Do you
This is a
prepare
good thing.
yourself? Yeah, do you keep some pointers? Okay, I want to end it like this. Or do you have a certain phrase that you use at the end? Or how do you go about it yourself?
Mm. So I like shining light to this because like I said, ending with an impact I think is the most important thing because it's the last thing they hear what you're gonna say. This is that moment. This is that real moment. You're on that stage. You have to make that final impression. Like, if you did it great in the middle and then you mess up in the end, I'm sure they'd be like, "Hmm." But when you know how to end with that impact and have it in the proper way, like you can really create that impact but impress the people. So what I usually do, first of all, Fahad, yes. Listen, I prepare, I prepare. There's no such thing as let's just wing it for everything in life.
Yeah,
But
there
what
is no
I
such thing
do,
as over preparing.
no. But what I
Yeah.
do is a sweet spot in between. So I have the overall idea in my mind, but I leave room to improvise. And this goes back to your point of let's be supernatural because I'm not gonna memorize word by word. I'm gonna sound
Yeah.
robotic. I'm gonna get scared that I'm gonna forget. But what I'm gonna do is, okay, listen, have the overall idea. This is how I'm gonna end. And then in the moment when I feel like I'm gonna end. I just improvise, and it comes back to a place. So this is the part of maybe telling you the technique of how I prepare before. But also, you need to have a way to create a place where you are going to be memorable. So what I hate, and I hate this about a lot of situations is in informal and even informal meetings. What happens usually, Fahad? People are like, all right, thank you so much. Is there any time for questions and answers? It's like, Fahad, really? Is this what you're going to leave your audience with? Thank you, everyone. We are good. This is the last message that you remember. You just went through your speech. You put in the effort just to tell everyone thank you.
Nicely put.
Really, that's what you're going to leave them with? No, please, guys, you need to end with an impact. Half of the people don't even remember what you said, right? So
Yeah.
maybe they were spacing out and they just came in the end. So if you say thank you, what did this person just speak about? So you have to have techniques of bringing back what you want to conclude to the audience. So if it's an informal meeting, so imagine you were invited to TED Talk, right? You have to end with that motivation. First, you bring back your message. You either say it in a very motivational way. You can end with a quote. You can end
Yeah.
with, most important is what are they going to do with your message? We do this in marketing, and you said you have something about marketing, your call to action. What is your call to action to the people? So you end, you conclude, but you need to move them. What are you going to do about this? How are you going to change your life? So this is how you need to end your speeches. Now, this is informal. Now, in meetings, you can't create that motivation and let's do all of that. But what you can do is you're done with your meeting, reiterate what your points were, create a small summary for people to be in. The people who are spacing out, they're going to know what you're saying. Same thing with call to action. What are the next steps? Next steps for Fahad, but the next steps also for the audience. And that's how you can create an impact. You need to end with an impact and let them do something after that. And that is how you need to start ending with an impact. But lastly is when you end, you have to come back all together, bring the message, create that impact, and then if you want, of course, thank them. You can be like, so this was my message. Thank you, guys. You're respecting them. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me. And that's when you say, hey, guys, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Rightly said. And also, it's very important that I personally believe by the time you finish up with your presentation, you shouldn't be really asking that, if you have any questions, you can go ahead. What I mean by that is you should try throughout your session that
Yes.
people keep asking you throughout rather than they hold on to their questions and they ask you at the end, because it's not going to help either of you. It means that if for I'll give you a little example. So what happens is if I'm somewhere attending an event, I have a question and they are not
100%.
appreciating me to ask them right away. They sometimes they announce that okay, in the last 15 minutes we'll open the stage for
We'll give
questions.
time.
That's the
Yeah,
most
yeah.
ridiculous thing ever. I do not want to be a part of any such thing where I would be able to ask questions in the end. Why? Uh, what if I forget about my question? What if
Yeah,
I'm
it
not there till
happens.
the end? Maybe I have to go somewhere after 15, 20 minutes. Or maybe I'm not interested anymore. And a lot of times what happens is I want to ask a question, but after 20, 30 minutes, you have already answered to that question in some other way. Now my question is invalid, but if I had asked back when I wanted to ask the question, I may have been
Hmm.
more interested in getting the answer rather than waiting for it till the end. So the idea is just keep on asking them if you have any questions, just keep on engaging them. So at the end, you do not have to say if you have any questions, you can ask. You can just say perhaps, if there are any questions left, we appreciate you asking it now.
Uh-huh.
So I
That's
think
nice.
I think
I
that
love the
should that
left.
should be. Yeah, and also there's one little technique that I use. I don't know how many uh, coaches like you recommend it or not. Again, I just learned it as I went by. So I kind of try to end the session or when I'm moving towards the end, I just add in a joke or two in the end. I basically like people to laugh and smile throughout, no matter what the topic is, because that's how I think I leave a lasting impact. When people leave, I like to see them going with a smile, or they are not uptight. They're laughing, they're talking to each other, they're making jokes,
Yeah,
and they also
simple.
end up socializing with each other. But if you give them a dry speech, they'll just be taking notes, and they'll just get up and they would want to go and not
Hmm.
stick around for socializing. So this is I think one of the things that I like to do. Um, I don't know if
Yes, humor, by the way, humor is proven to be one of the most persuasive method in any speech. Now, the tricky part is not a lot of people want to end with humor. It's up to them, right? I love
yeah,
your approach because it doesn't even have to be a proper joke, yeah. It could just be like, so something extremely informal or sarcastic or anything like it
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
it's a
exactly.
great method. We're humans. We like to laugh. Let's not take things way too seriously. Yes, if you have a motivational speech, if you see most of the motivational speeches, they're not all serious. They have ups and then they have downs and then they have ups again. So you're right. Humor is amazing. And if you want to do it, I encourage you to do it. If you're not comfortable yet and you want to build it up, then don't do it. You can do it at the start. Like you can be like, hey guys, thanks for everything. And throw in something like, oh, I didn't even wake up today, like I couldn't come, like just making it light. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and also accepting your weaknesses also make you a better speaker is what I believe. As in,
Yeah.
rather than faking something like I think. So I came out, I'm looking sharp. Am I not? It's stuff like a lot. I've seen a lot of people doing that. They're just acting like everything is perfect. While it's not. For example, if I have a training in the morning, I've always had a hard time waking up in the morning, getting ready for. I don't like it. I've never liked it. So
All
when
right.
it's early morning, I barely make it to the venue, and I just get there just right in right time and I begin. So a lot of times I do mention it that I'm sleepy and I need a cup of coffee. And I also encourage people to, if any tea or coffee available at the venue, I encourage them to get it while we are communicating with each other. So I think being real is probably
Yeah,
one of
being
the
real is
keys
everything.
here. So
Being
Diana,
real is
any
everything.
any any final takeaways or key points you would like to
Hmm.
leave for people who are watching us today? I mean, I really think that we have just it's just the tip of the iceberg. No,
Scratch
we
the
haven't discussed
surface.
a
Yeah.
lot, but I understand that your time is also valuable, and we haven't really prepared a lot for this. So I don't want to catch you off guard and put you in a situation so. Um, anything that you want to share that we haven't today, you think should be
Yeah, for
mentioned?
sure. For sure. First of all, go ahead. I love improvising, so you can always catch me up off guard, maybe for next time. But like you said, we barely scratched the surface, guys. We just went through content. There's public speaking is huge. There's so many avenues, there's so many different ways. So I will leave you with ending with an impact, right? So with my favorite quote, which is a quote I made up, but I really think it's very reliable, and it's people are like kids. You need to entertain them and engage them in order for them to really love you. And just always keep that at the back of your mind when you're doing a speech. So what I mean is start strong. Bring them in with audience attention hooks, guys. Don't start with, hi, my name is Diana, da, da, da. Start with something exciting, a quote, a statistic, a question, a beautiful story. Lure them in. And then remember the burger part, which is try to debulk that burger and bring in ways of engaging, which is asking questions, stick to the power free. And then lastly, please end with an impact. End with an impact in any way. Reiterate your message, say your main message, go for your call of action. I think, like I said, I want to go back. These are my three pillars of you want to create an impactful speech. This is what you're going to do. And that's how you're going to be remembered. And if you have any questions, guys, I'm on LinkedIn. You can just message me quickly, and I'm very, very, very open to answer any questions.
Superb. Adriana, I'm gonna 100% I'm gonna tag you in the post once this is ready, this is edited and everything.
Yes, sure.
So my primary platform where I share these podcasts is LinkedIn. And the LinkedIn audience is who my actual audience is. Because mind over matter, personal development, thriving at your job,
Yes.
thriving in your businesses, becoming
So
successful, speaking
relevant.
better, everything is,
Yes.
so the right audience is there as compared to Facebook or Twitter or whatever. I think the right audience is here. Irrespective of maybe I'm not getting as many eyeballs as I could have on other platforms because usually people post on other platforms. But see, the objective is not getting random eyeballs. The objective is to reach out to the right people who are actually looking for this kind of information.
Yes.
And these are mostly people,
Yes.
professionals. So I'm going to tag
LinkedIn.
you there. And apart
Yeah.
from that, what else? If you have any other contact details or anything that you're offering, you just message me all that. I'm going to include that over there too. So
Sure.
people, and I encourage everybody who is looking for, uh, who has any kind of stage fright, who needs to learn about how to be a better public speaker, how to conquer your stage fear, how to sort of align your content for the presentations, how to have a better sort of a connection with the audience. You name it, and Diana is here, who can help you out with each and everything, because it's been something very valuable for me to talk to us. So, Diana, you're the first public speaking coach who I've talked to.
Awesome.
I think
Okay.
ever, probably in my life so far in my
Oh,
professional journey. So
interesting.
it's
Okay.
been amazing. And sometimes what happens is you share your ideas and you get reassurance that you are doing something right. So you kind of feel a bit satisfaction inside that, okay,
Mm.
I'm not doing a very bad job. So it's been a pretty good experience for me. By the way, I have this one question that I forgot to ask you. A lot of
Yeah, go
times,
ahead.
what happens is people tend to focus too much on their outlook when there's an event
Mm.
coming up.
Mm.
I know about it because I have been sort of conscious about my own that thing too
Yes.
because I had like longer hair than probably you a few months back.
Oh,
Yeah, so
really?
yeah, I had a
That's
hard
so
time
cool.
managing my hair, and so sometimes I'm having a bad hair day, or for example, I'm wearing a certain kind of shirt that's not going with my coat. Whatever it is, I forgot to shave or fix my beard, whatever. So a lot of times my attention would be more on this rather than whatever is here. So how much importance do you think this thing has
Yeah.
when it comes to public speaking? Do you think this outlook, how you look, what you're wearing, how much percentage of importance do you want to give it to out of 100, if you would?
Okay. So listen, I'm very real as possible. I do think first impressions matter. I think the same way I told you guys when you start strong and the first words that come out of your mouth is what gonna put people in. So the thing is you have the power and the control to even lure people in before you start your speech. So I'm not gonna go over and beyond and you need to look perfect and super dazzled and spend 9 hours on your looks. But listen, we are humans. This is what happens. There is a certain type of judgment. So if I'd have to give a percentage, I would say that 100 out of 100 is important, but it's not comparing to how much you need to prepare. So as long as, listen, you just look a bit neat, you look like you've got things together. I actually tell girls don't overdo yourselves as well, because it can go against you. Even for men, like if you're coming on Fahad with a full pink suit on stage, what can happen is it will take away the
All the
attention from
attention.
you as a speaker. Yeah. So same thing with women, like just dress very decent. Don't overdo yourself. But yes, Does looks matter? Yes, it does. You need to look like you're well put together so they can, before you even open your mouth, trust what you're gonna say. But that does not
Hmm.
overtake that. So I advise, even on stage or wherever you are, wear simple colors. Don't go out and buy a full closet. No. Black on
Yep.
black, white, simplicity. But don't put more attention on your looks than your speech. Never do that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we see Steve Jobs, right? Remember? We
Oh, I talk
saw
about him
Mark,
so much. Mark
right? We
Zuckerberg,
see
Steve Jobs.
he wears the same exact thing, but don't get it wrong, they still look put together.
And
So
they have got this
same
exact same black shirt, 20 shirts, not one
same
shirt that he
black
wears every
shirt,
day.
but it's a neat black shirt. It's a
Yeah.
neat black shirt. The guy never comes with flip-flops
Yeah.
on stage. So maybe just to conclude, what I'm saying is, please do, yes, look well together and neat, but don't invest more time on how you look like than on your speech itself.
And also this one thing that I personally believe is I personally, if I'm going on the stage for something, for any event or speech or whatsoever, I think I should not want to be uh, looking more expensive than everybody else. I should look as much as what everybody else is looking like, rather than I put on a $150,000 suit or whatever. I mean, some people do that, and just for the heck of it, that if I've got an important spot, let's say I'm in a TED talk, then I should look my
Yeah,
best. It's not important that you put on an expensive suit. What's important is that you look presentable, and exactly what
presentable.
happens when you say Mark Zuckerberg and all these people. So it's just because I've read the why these guys do it. Why do they want to keep it simple? It's because they are like, okay, fine, black shirt is a very formal black color, is a formal color. I'm looking all right. It gets the job done. At the same time, it saves them not only time every morning when they have to get
Mm.
ready, because we spend most of our time blow drying our hair, putting the makeup and finding the right matching. It becomes um tedious.
Too
It's
much.
time taking. It's time taking, and it puts a
Yeah,
lot of stress. And as a matter of fact, when you wake up in the morning, the most stress I have felt over the years is
hmm
how am I going to look? As in, what kind of dress am I going to wear today? Is it going to match with my shoes or not? Because I'm very picky about it. My belt should match my shoe. It should match
hmm
my strap of the watch. I've always been like this. But point being, if you keep it simple, it would be better. And also, this one thing I wanted to mention
for
was,
sure.
if you are overdoing it, then you are creating one more challenge for yourself that you have to overcome. So you just said that the attention will be at your clothes, for example. So I know that because I told you I had long hair and I'm a 6'5" long, I'm a 6 feet 5 inches tall guy. So what happens was, usually when I go somewhere, they notice my height and my hair rather than who I actually am.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
my focus was always on what I deliver, and which would take away their attention from what I look like. So they do not go home uh, thinking about, we met somebody who was a tall guy with long hair and blah blah blah, or
yeah.
somebody I met this lady who was very fair and she had purple hair or whatever.
Mhm.
They should talk about the substance, that okay, we met somebody,
For
and
sure.
he knew about this stuff, and we got these pointers and we learned this and that.
For
So I think
sure. Yeah, yeah. Listen, I want to advocate on like what you're saying is, listen, I'm not against, first of all, if you have purple hair, yeah, have purple hair, but straighten it or put it in a, like, be your personality. Don't ever, like, remember, we're going back to don't be fake. I want you to stand out and be who yourself. But don't do it just to get kind of that attention of,
attention,
I,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you said, I look so rich. If you're not that rich, man, don't go above and beyond. And like you said, sometimes I said, if you overdo things, it can work against you because people have a prejudgment. But also on the flip side is, no, don't change your personality. You have that long hair, yeah, do it, man. It's super cool. But don't, like, if it comes out like and it's this big, like, you can tie it in a bun, you can tie it in a
Yeah,
ponytail. You can, like,
yes.
just as long as you're presentable, right? That's just the key. Look presentable, look like you've got it together, and then the rest, your
Similarly, with
personality.
the with other stuff, like for example, you have got this piercing or this piercing, or you have got a, for example, you've got tattoos. So I hide them always.
Fine.
I try to hide them. Again, I don't want them to put all the attention, tattoos and
Mm.
this, and these are non-important things. I'm not
Mhm.
there for that. So the focus should be on the content,
So
please.
I was saying, yeah, I was saying, like, first of all, I have a great tip of where you're saying you're exhausted about picking outfits. If you ever have a speech or something important, what I do is on my phone, whenever I wear something really put together and nice, I take a picture. It's in my gallery of put together outfits. I don't even need to think.
Nice.
I go through it. It's amazing, guys. It's going to save you so much time. So you're not going to look amazing every day, but when you have that big thing, I'm like, this looks good. This looks good. I'm like,
That's a
fine.
great
So
idea.
it's super simple in the morning when you don't have time. Another thing is, yeah, just pressing on your point. Like, don't hide who you are. But also, yes, you need to be mindful of, your audience and them not prejudging you before you even open your mouth. So just look presentable, look well put together, and you're gonna do a good job.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Diana, for taking out time. It
Thank
has been
you.
truly been a pleasure. And I would love to catch up with you again sometime. And honestly speaking, I
Sure.
have said this to a couple of more people who are, valuable to me, because you taking out time, connecting with me and doing this is something very special. So
Thank
because we are
you.
just getting together to bring upon these ideas and share it with the world, and with the hopes to have it
Mhm.
reach as many people as possible. So
That's true.
I don't know whatever
Let's
I was saying,
spread.
but thank you very much for showing up.
Listen,
And
whatever we're saying is always valuable. Thank you. I love mind over matter. I encourage every single person to go out there, watch the actual episodes, and like what, as you guys can see, Fahad's energy, he's so authentic. He's just there with one purpose. He just wants to spread amazing messages for everybody to benefit. So I encourage every single person to take this on, and it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. It just matters what message you want to partake. So thank you for having me. Definitely want to have conversations with you later on. And yeah,
hopefully.
hope for the best. Thank you
Right, you
so
have a
much.
wonderful rest of the day, Diana.
You too. Take care.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
All right, bye.